So a warm welcome to you all. My name is Antje Fiedler. I'm an associate editor of the Journal of Small Business Management. I have today the great pleasure to talk with Frederic Blume and Hsueh about their paper that advances our understanding of the ways in which VCs evaluate entrepreneurial teams. So Frederic is at the Swiss Institute of Small Business and Entrepreneurship at the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland, and Josh is an assistant professor of the John Kirping International Business School in Sweden. Their paper, Opening the Black Box of Venture Capitalist Evaluation of Entrepreneurial Teams, has been published online in April 2023 in the Journal of Small Business Management. Welcome, Josh and Frederic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So to start with, could you please share with us where the idea for the paper came from?
Sure. So the idea for the paper came right from the VC industry. At the time, I was working for a small venture capital fund in Zurich, and my boss reached out to me and told me that he needs to know more about how other VCs evaluate entrepreneurial teams, because we didn't have a very structured approach to that. And he told me that there was literally no research regarding that topic, and he didn't have enough time or capacity to do it himself. And therefore, yeah, we thought this topic might be interesting for my thesis, and I could research it as part of that. And then I pitched it to Josh, and he also liked it very much. And we thought this topic would be theoretically very relevant to the entrepreneurial finance literature. And then we did some deep dive into the prior studies, and we found that they prove that VCs see startups, the teams of startups, the entrepreneurial teams, as highly relevant, and see them as one of the most important, or even the most important factor when making investment decisions. But there was no literature describing how they evaluate whether the team is good or bad, and whether it would make sense to invest in that team. So we decided to start a study in finding out how they do it.
Thank you, Frederic.
That's basically the story.
That's interesting and fascinating. So in terms of the theoretical contribution, could you share with us what are the most important insights?
Yes, so I think the most interesting insights from our finding is the fact that we found a diversity in how venture capitalists really use different kind of approaches in evaluating an entrepreneur team that they have met in the first time. So on the one hand, we still observe that some venture capitalists rely on their intuitions, for instance. So basically, they just rely on their first impression on the entrepreneur teams. So this way, they can really make a decision quickly. But on the other hand, we also have observed the increasing use of technology, such as big data and AI, that can really help venture capitalists to screen out some potential entrepreneur teams that can really maximize their rate of return of the investments. But even with this kind of technology-based approach, we still find that venture capitalists rely on their subjective impressions and input. For instance, we have found that venture capitalists will try to have some private interactions with entrepreneur teams, such as having beer together or having private dinner together. And this kind of information will be useful and to complement the technology-based input to really help them make decisions. So in the end, what we find is that venture capitalists will probably try to balance between this kind of human input and also the technology input in order to really make an effective decision-making when they really approach the first-time investment targets. And this will be our most interesting insights, I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you. That is fascinating, Josh. And as a final question, I'm interested to maybe learn about the practical implications of your research for policymakers and perhaps entrepreneurs themselves.
Sure. So VCs, even though they consider the entrepreneurial team as one of the most or the most important factor for determining a venture's future success, they often don't really have a clear idea of how to evaluate the team and rather rely on their gut feeling in an unstructured and subjective approach. Our insights could be a useful framework for them to identify which approach may fit their preferences regarding time, resources, also maybe depending on the industry and stage they're investing in when evaluating entrepreneurial teams. It could also be very useful for entrepreneurs by seeing how VCs tend or could evaluate them. They can prepare for these evaluations and pass them even better. So I think those are the two main implications from our paper.
Yes, and I also think the policymaker can also take from our insights by providing some additional support on top of what they have provided already. So traditionally, a policymaker may provide financial support, technology support. But from our insights, we also show the importance of this kind of informal conversations and informal occasions. For instance, a policymaker may provide some events like speed dating, for instance, to help venture capitalists and also new entrepreneur teams to know each other and also to know what will be the chemistry there. Because apparently chemistry is still important, right? Considering that some venture capitalists still rely on their subjective evaluations. So in this sense, we also indicate to the policymaker that they may need to provide some additional social support to both venture capitalists and entrepreneur teams to ensure an effective ecosystems.
Thank you so much, Josh and Frederic, for taking the time to share these important insights with me. I'm sure that the stakeholders of the journal now want to read the full paper, which is available at the Taylor and Francis website of the Journal of Small Business Management. I really enjoyed learning more about your important research, and I'm sure it will inspire future research. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for a nice interview. Yes.
Fantastic.